The 2023 Greater Los Angeles homeless count is a point-in-time snapshot of homelessness in Los Angeles County.
Yeah, this helps determine the distribution of funding and services to the unhoused, and Mayor Karen Bass says she's doing whatever it takes to end the problem. Our friends over at Fox 11 have the latest.
Tonight, the largest homeless count in the nation begins in Los Angeles. Thousands of volunteers will be taking to the streets through Thursday to count the number of unhoused residents on the streets. The volunteers go in groups and conduct the count from their cars. Before the count tonight, there was a press conference with LA City and county leaders.
A lot of people are so overwhelmed by the crisis, they don't think that a lot is being done. But there's organizations like LA Family Housing that has been doing this day in and day out.
This year's count is extra significant, given the priority that the new LA Mayor Karen Bass has placed on addressing the homeless crisis since taking office. She declared a state of emergency over homelessness as her first official act. Bass spoke tonight, saying it's not only important to help unhoused residents now, but to also keep tenant protections in place for people struggling to pay rent.
Tonight, we're counting the people on the street, but we also know that it is most important that we prevent new people from falling into homelessness. And as COVID supports go away, we are at risk of another spike in homelessness.
Some of the volunteers say they felt compelled to help.
Being part of the community, we see it every day. We see how it impacts, and definitely where there could be room for improvement. So not having an answer, this is the least that we could do to play a part.
Here's why this count is so important. The data collected will determine the amount of funding and services that will go to the unhoused residents here. And leaders hope more people will sign up to volunteer.
No amount of urgency is enough to end homelessness without money from the federal government.
The 2022 homeless count was 41,000 unhoused people in the city of Los Angeles. That's up 1.7% from 2020.
Okay, so from LA to Detroit, let's go back to 2022. The Detroit City Council unanimously approved a right to counsel ordinance after significant public pressure. The idea is simple. Lower income tenants shouldn't be left alone to defend themselves against powerful landlords whose attorneys specialize in ejecting people from homes. So in October of that year, the city was supposed to start providing lawyers to tenants for free. Instead, now more than 4,000 households have faced eviction. Based on a recent University of Michigan Poverty Solutions report, only 1 in 5 of these tenants will have had representation in recent trends. Now, cities across the country are waking up to the idea that sending sheriffs to drive entire families from the only shelter they have is preventable. Cities like New York, Philly, Baltimore, Milwaukee, San Francisco, and others have passed right to counsel ordinances, which I think is a must. As you know, you do have a right to be represented and properly represented. Again, the legal system and that whole eviction system is so layered, is so complicated, and folks need help. You know, aside from, you know, how they may have gotten behind in their rent. You know, I know in some cases it's just pure negligence, but in some cases people are having a very, very hard time pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, of course, and now post-pandemic. And so, you know, big ups to Detroit for leading the way. It looks like they need to play some catch up, you know, as this program has been mandated, but it looks like they're falling short of making sure these people get this representation. But it's good to see that this whole movement is spreading across major cities in the U.S.
And it's important to point out that these last two stories are connected. You know, right now in Los Angeles, they're doing a homeless count. Last count, upwards of 40,000 unhoused people on the street. Well, how do you think that happens? You know, and what this story in Detroit gives us a clue as to how it happens. There are a lot of people that, for a whole host of reasons, you know, are evicted, you know, without a whole lot of due process. And so it's good to see that the city of Detroit, you know, has created this lifeline, you know, so that they can be in the business of doing everything they can to keep people in their homes.
But now they need to execute.
But this is the problem.
Like they've fallen a little short.
It was a great ordinance to pass.
That's right.
Right. You know, but right now there are thousands, over 4,000 families, you know, that are on the verge of being evicted because they simply don't have representation. They simply don't have someone, you know, to help them make their case. Right. In a court of law. And so, you know, we're going to continue to keep our eye on this, not just in Detroit, but in so many cities across the country. These sorts of ordinances make a material difference in the lives of everyday people.
All right, moving right along, we're going to stay in New York City for a moment, Nicola.
That's right. In New York City, Mayor Eric Adams, Goldman Sachs and MasterCard announced this week that they're joining forces to help small business owners get back on their feet by creating a $75 million New York City Small Business Opportunity Fund. Now, this Opportunity Fund comes nearly 3 years after small business owners fought to stay afloat throughout the pandemic. According to the city's official website, Mayor Adams announced during an official press conference that the loan program would give about 1,500 local businesses that meet their requirements a loan up to $250,000 at a market-leading rate of 4%. Now, in order to qualify for a loan, listen up, soulmates, your small business should make less than $5 million annually and is required to be located in New York City.
All right, just in case you kind of caught up in the confusion, U.S. health officials want to simplify the recommended COVID-19 vaccine protocol, making it more like the process for an annual flu shot. Now, the FDA is suggesting a single annual shot. The formulation would be selected in June, targeting the most threatening COVID-19 strains. And then people could get a shot in the fall when people begin spending more time indoors and exposure increases. People in the U.S. have been much less likely to get an updated COVID-19 booster shot compared to widespread uptake of the primary vaccine series. In its proposal, the FDA indicated it hoped a single annual shot would overcome challenges created by the complexity of the process, both in messaging and administration, attributed to that low booster rate.
Spotify is planning to cut about 6% of its employees, or around 600 employees, joining a slew of tech companies from Amazon.com Incorporated to Meta Platforms Incorporated in announcing job cuts to lower costs. Now, Spotify made a massive commitment to podcasting beginning in 2019, spent over $1 billion on acquiring podcast networks, creation software, a hosting service, and the rights to popular shows like the Joe Rogan Experience and Armchair Expert. Shares tumbled last year as investors questioned when they'd begin seeing returns. A Spotify spokesperson told sources most departments will be impacted across the company. Tech companies, including Spotify, added to their headcounts during the pandemic, but were forced to make reductions in response to diminished advertising revenue and a shaky economic outlook.
All right, shifting gears here, there's snowfall here in Detroit. We talked about it a little earlier. And while many across the country find the winter to be annoying, it is much welcome and needed by farmers. Fox 2's Veronica Meadows explains how this provides a positive change for crop growers in Metro Detroit and in your community.
With this snow and cold, that's what we want to see.
This fresh snowfall is a welcome change for Jerry Hebron. She's the executive director of Oakland Avenue Urban Farm, which spans 7 acres on Detroit's north end. The farm may be snow-covered now, but later this year, it will provide fresh vegetables to the community.
We support food pantries. We run a farmer's market. We already have people in community who are going to be looking to us for things like kale and collards. And like I said, we already have spinach in the ground.
While it's snowing Sunday, overall this season,
the mild winter is a concern.
That's because Hebron says some crops, like garlic, need a cold winter to flourish later this year.
Our fruit trees need to have some frost because we have pears and we have apples and we have peaches. They need a frosting period, a cooling period.
Hebron says the cold is also important to kill pests, which they struggled with last year.
Aphids were all over the place. We need those eggs to to die, you know, and we need the ground to settle and just rest and get ready for us for our planting period.
Hebron is hopeful more cold weather is on the way. She says it's too soon to tell if the mild winter so far will impact their crops. For now,
it's all about Mother Nature. We work in sync with Mother Nature. The farmers are here growing for all of you, to feed all of you, and we're doing the best that we can do.
On Detroit's North End, Veronica Meadows, Fox 2 News.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew that garlic needs a frosty period in order to flourish?
Yeah.
Who knew
fruits.
that the ground needs to settle? You know, I enjoy a nice little prickly pear juice in the summertime. And you ain't gonna get no prickly pear juice if you don't have pears, right? You need the frost.
Yeah. So, you know, we need the snow. We got the snow today. You're experiencing the snow. But when you think about it, you know, I mean, that's environmentally, but when you think about it, you know, in spiritual terms, sometimes, you know, there's a winter season of your life where you know you need to just lock in and be quiet and be still. And I think if we pay more attention to what the earth does, you know, from season to season, and maybe sort of kind of model our lives after that, maybe we'll find a lot more balance as well. So she's just basically saying, look, you know, the earth is doing what it's supposed to do. Let it be. And, you know, you'll be able to enjoy the fruits, you know, of that season after that season is up. So there you go.
All right, you got a word. You got a word for us today.
Yeah, you got to pay attention. I mean, it's sometimes your winter season of your life is very necessary.
Yeah.
Take a hint from Mother Earth.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, man.
Up next, protests are in full effect at Bethune-Cookman.
Oh, the young people are raising up, honey. What the students are demanding and how the university is, or maybe isn't, responding. We'll be right back with FOXSOUL's Black Reporter.